So maybe briefly first describe what happened in the next 2 years, and then we'll go through each one.
Oh, okay.
So what happened in the next 2 years that kind of because that after that tournament, this entire Smash scene kind of shifted.
Yeah, it really did. Like for a long time, like Genesis, it was like such a different like point in my career. Like finally, I was able to do something I was for a while even questioned if I could do. It was in like second places, second places. Winning Genesis 2, I knew like regardless of how it goes from here, no one is gonna be able to deny the fact that at one time, at one day, one tournament, I was actually on top. I was the one winning the entire tournament. And I feel that was like probably a huge relief for me, and I could play in tournament, like knowing that I won't, like stop playing this game and not receiving my goal. So I felt like for the, from this point on forward, I played more, like calm and like everything was, like better, and it made probably my game better because I could, enjoy it more. Like I was, on top, but I did not need to be like afraid or like worried about not actually get there at some point. So like for the next like 1.5 year, it felt like I was unbeatable. Like you are not gonna beat me, and that's a feeling I was carrying with me for a long, long time. And I guess like rightfully so in many ways. I remained undefeated from Pound 5 up till Evo 2013 when I basically had not really touched the game for like 6 months. But I decided to go to Evo for like different reasons. So
Yeah, yeah. And what? So what? I guess the next biggest one after Genesis 2 was Apex 2012, where you beat Mango, PP, and HBox to take the title.
yeah, that's correct. I was playing all three of them. Started off playing against PPMD in winner settings. And Apex 2012, like at first, it does not like really start good. I remember we had like a lot of games on Friday. Then we had a break the entire Saturday, and then the bracket was Sunday, which is very unusual for a Smasher. We usually were used to like when we start, we are gonna continue to play, and then we finish. Like 1 day break, that has never happened before, so it's very weird. And I realized sleep is of course very very important in tournaments, and I'm a very reaction based player. So sleeping less means worse reactions, which means worse punish game, which means worse results, and like momentum is riding on being like perfect or like reading your opponents. So basically getting a small amount of sleep is affecting you in like multiple areas, and it goes like around in a circle, and it all affects each other for the worse. And I remember for Saturday we were staying in the hotel room and we're about to go to bed. I think I was staying with Leffen, Solar, and probably someone more. Or it might have been the three of us, but yeah, I think it was the three of us actually. And the plan was for us to put an alarm on, but some accident during this happened, and we're supposed to wake up at 9 a.m. When I wake up, I'm usually pretty tired still, but for some reason I feel very, very rested, and I'm like, no way that this is 9 a.m. This is not 9 a.m. I grab my cell phone and I'm like, please, please do not be more than like 10. And it's like 1:30 or something. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to fall asleep tonight. So I guess like we can blame all of us, like we're all responsible for like getting up in time. So that was like a huge like miscalculation. And I tried to go to bed early the next night, and I think I went to bed at like around 11 p.m. or something, and I could not fall asleep for hours. I was awake in my bed for hours, and like I could not sleep at all. And I remember Hack and Rocky, they came back to the hotel room. They had went to Smash like Fest or like Smash session on the hotel. They were gone for hours. They came back and fall asleep before me. And the longer I was awake, the more like the more stress was coming to me. Like you're not gonna be able to play good tomorrow if you do not get a lot of sleep. I think I ended up sleeping 3.5, 4 hours before I had to wake up. And at that point, when I'm not allowed to sleep anymore, I'm so tired. And when the alarm goes on, I'm like, oh my god, this is not the way I wanted it to be. Like people, expect me to do good. I expect myself to do good. I feel like I'm in good shape. And I remember like when I was having breakfast, I could barely have my eyes open because I was so tired. I'm like, oh my god, this is never gonna work. And I remember I had to play SGA pretty early, Falcon player. And in the past, like I've been struggling with Falcons. That's pretty common. And I played against SGA on 2 events in a row up till this point. And even though I was winning 2-0 both of these times, I felt like that's not really, one of the first games I want to have for the day. But the thing is, when I'm very concentrated and focused, a lot of times I'm able to like block it out, the fact that I'm tired or something like that. And it was like I was, playing a little bit better than was like completely necessary. So I could move on in the bracket, like okay. I was beating SGA 2-0. I think I was playing against the Vans, like pretty early in the bracket as well. And I was down 1-0. Kind of similar to, being down to like Mac D on Pound 5. It was Peach Ditto. I still haven't been playing that matchup a lot. And he clearly was better than me in the Ditto overall. But I remember second game I was winning, pretty close. And in the third game I was having like a lot of stitch faces. I think I had like 3 in, the same match. He had 3 stitch faces up until that point, so I think it was like a bit like fair maybe. Hard to say, like it's luck involved. But I managed to beat him. I still felt like, a little bit like my head is not entirely there. But the more and more I went on in the tournament, like I started to feel like more awake. I had my classic orange juice. Like it's gonna be fine, Like the more important it gets, the more pumped I'm gonna be. So it's gonna be okay. That was what I was hoping for at least. And I played against Shroom. That was also like very close, but I beat him like in the end 2-1. Last match I almost went to timeouts actually. Now when I think about it, it was very crazy. And after I was beating Shroom in the winter quarters, that was like 2 out of 3. I had to play against PP, and that was 3 out of 5. So that was like a relief for me because I do not like 2 out of 3 because you do not have as much time to adapt to your opponent. So I was like, okay, that's one phase of the tournament. Now we're in 3 out of 5 instead. So that felt good for me. And at this point, I did not really feel that much tired anymore. Like now I was sort of back to normal, and I was like, okay, now the really serious games they're about to start. And against PP, it was like a very, very interesting set overall. I would say it was pretty even for the most part. I think I'm not entirely sure actually. But the 2 first games we go like 1-1, and I'm beating him on FT, I remember, which is by far Peach's best stage in the matchup. Like he's Falco, he's a fast faller, he falls fast. If I up throw him, I can run and re-grab him, and regardless of what direction he's flying from my throw. So that was pretty good for me. And then it all went down to Battlefield, like in game 5. And I have like this specific edge guard with like turnips and nairs and stuff, like throwing a turnip, then re-grab it in the air and throw it again. And in total, in the past like 5-6 years, I probably missed that one like 5-10 times at most. And I managed to miss this one twice in the same match. And I'm usually like I stated, like I'm very calm, like collected, no emotions. But when I missed it for the second time and I had to pay the price, dying a stock super early, like on low percents, I'm pretty sure I was saying not, some good words like, fuck that, was like so stupid, like throwing away the game. You're up 2-1, like why make it go to game 5 when you could, just finish it off? So, yeah. But after that moment, like, I started to play very, very solidly again, and I had some good reads on like his, recovery patterns and stuff like that, and I was bringing it closer and closer. So, 1 minute ago was 3-1 in stocks, was like 1-1 in stocks, and I kept surviving like all the time. He had a very, very hard time killing me, and I think the pressure like sort of got to him at this point, And when he tries to escape going from a side platform, from the left one I believe, up to like the top platform, he wanna do a thing called waveland. So basically, when he's reaching the platform, he wanna like press an air dodge down to the ground again. But the thing is, he presses it like slightly too early when he's below the platform, so he makes an air dodge instead, and super fast. Like I react to this or something, and I jump up similar to the one in Genesis One against Mango, and I nair him in the direction that he do not think I'm gonna send him to, and he has like bad eye and he dies. And that was like a huge comeback for me, like 3-1 in matches. Like that was so good, you know. Uh, because like always when you play in tournament, like one step in the bracket is like so huge because like if you remain in winners, you have 2 sets. Like of course you should always go in with the mentality of winning, but it's always like a relief that you can have one bad set and you're still in the tournament. And also like if you go to losers, you have to like play 2 rounds, like basically always extra. So I was the guaranteed third, and he was guaranteed fifth, and I could still drop a set and still be in the tournament. While he was forced to win every single set in the tournament to actually win. So that was pretty. It was pretty good for me. And at this point, I was like completely pumped up. Like okay, now let's do this. Like I want to keep my title and show I'm worthy of actually having it. Because some people, like even myself, I consider like if you beat someone one tournament, that's good. That's good. But if you really want to state that you're like better than someone for sure, then you should actually do it twice. Me winning Genesis 1, I guess you could make an argument for me being the best in the world, because Hungerbox had been beating me like one time at Apex 2010, I was beating him twice in a row, and PP had beating me like one tournament only, while I had 2 tournaments, and Mango and we were 1-1 in sets, and he was like from 2 years ago, so I still think it was pretty fair to say I was like the best in the world, but to really, have like some clear evidence, I wanted to win, twice. And at this point, I was up against Mango in the bracket. The usual story, it usually ends up with me and Mango at some point in the tournament at least, even though it's not always grand finals, of course. And I played against Mango, and I don't know, like I had such a good set. Probably like I don't want to say one of my best sets, but like my level in that set compared to his level in that set was probably one of the biggest differences in my favor. And I remember, I think it was like in the second game, possibly third, but I think second game, he's like recovering high, and I have a bomb in my hand, and Mango kind of often go pretty high with his recovery, which is pretty unusual for most spaces. So I have the bomb, I'm throwing it up, and I'm like, please, let him explode, and that's boom, an explosive ending of that stock. And like the crowd is really hyped at this point. So even if most people are really, cheering for Mango, they are like hyped about the way I'm playing these matches, and I'm doing great, So that feels amazing. And yeah, I guess like I noticed like Mango was doing like some technical errors and was falling for like some crouch cancel down smashes and stuff. But overall, I think I like solidly outplayed him in this set all around. Like it was a solid 3-0. And I remember PC Chris, he stayed around this time because I was at PC Chris's place before the tournament. And then I also said like, I also remember he said like, I think like Armada is the best player, like pretty clearly at this point, and I wanted to prove that that was the actual case. So having a 3-0 win against Mango, that was not like only the fact that now you have 2 sets, but also the fact that you have like the mental advantage. Like last set we played, it was a 3-0. It's nothing much to discuss really, and that also put the set score or set count in my favor up to 3-2 actually. Because Mango won 2-1 at Genesis 1, I won 1 set at Genesis 2, so that's 2-2. And now, for the first times in winners final at Genesis 1, I was, the one in the lead. So that felt pretty good, And then I had to wait for, loser bracket. There was a lot of, sharks in the loser bracket. We had like PP, we had PPMD, we had Hungerbox, we had Mango. And then we had a pretty unexpected guy, I would say, for most people, Javi, who had been, running like so good in the loser bracket. He was this Mexican guy. He had, been dominating the community, like the scene in his country, Mexico, for such a long time, like I don't know, 7, 8 years or something like that, probably.
there's an interesting way about how he plays too. Describe a little bit why his play is interesting too.
Yeah, when it comes to Javi and the way he's holding the controller, most people they're holding, their hands just like this. They're grabbing the controllers.
Up a little higher.
Like,
there you go, perfect.
yeah, they're holding the controllers like this, and then they like sort of grab the controller. But Javi, with one of his hands, his right hand, is sort of more using it like an arcade stick. So he's using the left hand normally, and then with his right hand, he's playing like this. He's using all of his finger, like so. He's not really even grabbing the controller. He just lets his finger, move across the buttons, which is a very, very unique style. I've never seen someone play like that. And I even asked him, why do you hold the controller like this? I've never seen this. And I think he explained that he was doing some speedrunning back in the day. I think it was Mega Man X, actually. And he said that was, beneficial for him when he was playing that game. And I was like, I have never played this game. This, might be true. So yeah, I think it was Mega Man X at least. So that was very, very cool. And it was like so technical as well. I could never imagine someone, being so precise while playing so different. Like, was this, the future of Melee, maybe? You never know. So, at some point he ended up playing his PPMD in loser bracket, since I was beating PPMD and he ended up in losers. And I remember I was playing friendlies at this point, I was warming up for grand finals. I had no idea who to play against. I just, wanted to stay warm and, like, keep yourself, warmed up. And then I hear that people is very hyped in the other room. Like, what was happening? Like, what was so special? And I hear like people saying, "Oh, Javi won, Javi won." I was like, "Wait, didn't he have to play against PPMD?" And they're like, "Oh, he beat him 2-0." And I was like, "No way! Like, really?" And then sooner or later it was like confirmed. So as I was sitting in the next room, like the word was all out there already, and I was like, "That's a super solid performance." And the thing that made me very happy about that, like. In like Javi's situation, I could really relate to that as a player myself. I was coming to America, no one expected me to do well, and then Javi's doing something kind of similar to what I was doing. He's already now in the top 4. He beat one of the best players in America, and that's a very, very good performance. So I was very happy for him. But he's running losers. It had to end at 4th place, unfortunately. He had to play against Hungerbox. And a lot of people coming from North America have the same problem. Taking a game of Hungerbox on their first occasion is very rare. I remember Amsa did not do it, I did not do it, Over did not do it, and Javi did not do it either. Hungerbox was winning pretty solidly, 3-0. Javi did look pretty lost in the matchup. Like his usual pressure he was using against like PP, tried to rush him over. It didn't really work against Hungerbox's Puff. He had too much experience against the character, and the inexperience of Javi was like really showing, especially the 230 games. But overall, I was only happy for the guy. I could really feel like he made his country proud, so I was happy for him. And then it was Mango versus Hungerbox, and I think in this venue, no one really expected Hungerbox to win. Like, Mango and Hungerbox have always had this sort of like beef against each other, this rivalry. They were not really best friends back in the days, or not even nowadays, I would say. So I was like, if it's one person Mango want to beat, except for me, that's Hungerbox for sure. And I did think Mango would be winning. That was like what I thought if someone would have been asking me. But something did not really go Mango's way. He was up the entire game 1, and Hungerbox was clutching out with a pretty sick rest. And it was 1-0 in Hungerbox's favor. It's always, good. Like, he can afford losing 2 games, while Mango only can afford to lose, like, 1 more. And I think Mango, tied it up to 1-1 or something like that. But the more the set went on, it was, like, pretty clearly that this is Hungerbox's tournament. He always seems to do good at Apex for some reason. And he did. He ended up beating Mango 3-1, and that was like, oh, I did not really expect that, because Hungerbox was sending to loser bracket pretty early by Kirby Kaze, and he had to make like a long run for losers. And now, instead of, a Peach-Fox matchup, it seemed like, oh, Jigglypuff in grand finals again, like, the usual thing. Somehow, these Jigglypuffs are always making it to me in the bracket. But this time I have my, young Link. I've never been losing, like a set to Hungerbox. In games, I'm 5-1 against his Puffs. I felt like this might, work pretty well for me. So, like the last like 1-2 minutes beforehand, I was like, okay, just play Young real fast, like warm him up. Um, and the set went pretty good in my favor. It was like pretty clearly that Hungerbox did not really had like the tools to keep up with, the camping of Young Link. He was like, he was doing much better than he did at like pound 5, for example, but he could not really keep it up there. And then what I would think a lot of people would see like a little bit weird or something, like or maybe not good. I know a lot of people make an argument against coaching, and at this point I'm up 2-0 in the tournament, and he has PB and J, I think, sitting next to him. But then afterwards, Seabrick, a brawl player from Florida, is coming up and sitting next to him. And the Young Link Puff matchup is kind of similar to how Brawl works in many ways. It's way more about the neutral, you're getting one hit in, and not so much is happening, after that. It's, a war of patience. And Hungerbox is starting to do a lot of different decisions from what I remember. He was not playing nearly in the same way as before. Seabrick, I would think, had, been thinking about the games when we were playing and started, to calculate, oh, if the youngling is doing like this and this, you should move around in certain angles to avoid the projectiles that is coming to you and shield them, because youngling grab is so slow, it's very risky. If you miss a grab, you have such a big opening, and Puff has a rest which kills, super early as well. So a lot of, the things that was very good for Puff in the matchup, which Hungerbox had never been using up to this point, was actually starting to happening, which made it much harder for me because I wasn't really, expecting that to happen when he didn't even use it in the 2 first games. And in game 3, like Hungerbox was probably informed about some of the strategies, but even if someone tells you how to do something, it can be very hard to do it right away, and especially on the main stage. Hundreds of people are watching, tons of people watching the stream. And in game 3, when I wanted to finish, I just want to take my second title. I go for such a risky dare. I just want to jump in. I want to kill him. And if this downer is gonna hit, he will be dead. That's for sure. And I jump in. I think I'm gonna land it, but with the evidence there, it was a pretty bad downer. And Hungerbox could easily grab me, throw me off stage, and use like puffs, jumps, and like aerial mobility and back air to his advantage. And it was 2-1. It didn't really feel too bad though. It was like super close games, and like the strategies probably wasn't like too much on my head because Hungerbox hadn't been utilizing them like super well in this game from what I remember. But the more and more we played, I started to realize that no, this is getting harder. Like he's really using the correct tools in a much better way than he has ever done before. And the advantage in Hungerbox's favor, it continues going. And he beat me both game 4 and game 5. And I remember like the commentators, like afterwards when I was watching the games, they said like Seabrick was like the MVP of the tournament. Like the way he was coaching Hungerbox was like helping him. And I've always actually been against, like not always, but for a long time I've been against coaching. And I think this is a pretty good example of why. Because if you compare Smash to like a test in school or something, like of course you want the students to do well, but in the actual like moment when you have to write the test or exam or whatever, it's up to you to do it. Until it starts, you can ask your teacher, professor, classmates, whatever, with advice or how something is. But during the actual test, I think it's only up to you. That was like probably not too much on my mind, and I would never, complain about it in the tournament if it was not against the rules. But the thing is, like, I had learned a lot about, Smash mental game in these past few years, would have scared me a lot losing the first set at Genesis 1 and Pound 5. It didn't bother me nearly as much anymore, because I knew, like, I've already been winning, Grand Finals in America once. I proved for myself and everyone else that I can do this if I really, put my effort and heart into it. So even though it sucked, I needed to go through at least like 3 matches if I won them all. I knew like it's possible and I can do this. And Mango was like the first person beating me in America, and he was also the first person in grand finals I won against. So Hungerbox, he was the second person I lost against in America in the grand finals, and he was, up next on the line right now. So it would be a pretty fitting ending, I think, like, beating him, like, take a revenge not only in the bracket but in the grand finals. And I started to like see more and more of the patterns from Hungerbox, what he was doing. It made more and more sense, like the light shielding stuff, the way he was moving. So I started to like utilizing some tools, get around all of this stuff, and it worked better and better out in my favor. And I think in the end, my matchup experience was giving me the edge in those games. And even though it was very very close in all these three games, at least game 2 and 3, I would say, I managed to scratch out the win in a classic, like in a 3-0. And I remember I was having Hack right next to me, and he was, the person who was, practicing with me, Young Link against Puff. And I have a strong memory before Pound 5 when I was, about to travel. Because sometimes he turned out to be very, very angry about these games because there was so much, patience, so much, it was boring. But if you want to win, that's maybe what you have to do sometimes. And he told me before Pound 5, like, if you do not beat Hungerbox, I'm gonna never play this wacky matchup with you again. And I'm like, damn, like he's serious. Like he wants me to win. And having him sitting right next to me in that moment, and he could see me win, it was like that was the best thing I could give to him. Like as a thank you for all the practice, when he was sitting right next to me, to actually be able to beat Hungerbox. And I could see at his face, afterwards, he was so happy, he was so proud, and he knew that he was a big part of this. And I will never deny that. Hack, you were fucking awesome, dude. So thanks a lot for the practice. And that was like such a big moment for me, because I'd not only been winning once, but now actually twice. Like my winning streak, it started to become pretty solid. I had not been dropping a tournament in Europe for like, or since late 2008. I was winning twice in a row in America, and 2 of the people that had been beating me in the grand finals was beaten in the exact same order. And it was like a huge, huge win for me. And I was celebrating with, like the Swedes, the rest of the Europeans. It was great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, as you said, I mean, in the very beginning, when you pulled out the Young Link against Hungrybox at Pound 5, it was one of the hypest moments of the entire tournament. But just a little while later, that matchup, as you said, like it could be perceived as like boring and stuff, and people would. I think Mango said something like, I hate what it does to the game, like watching Young Link and Puff like camp each other. And of course, Wife said the exact opposite when I talked to him. But what would you say to like Mango or in that respect? Would it mostly be that you were playing to win for that respect?
Yeah, I remember I was reading some kind of blog post from Mango that he said he did not really respect the Young Link because he was like winning in a 7-3 matchup, which I think was pretty wrong in the first place. He had never played a matchup. He didn't really know what the matchup was all about. Like it can look pretty one-sided if one person know how to play the matchup and the other one clearly does not have the same experience. And I do understand what he's saying. The games are not, fun in any means. But why should I play a matchup that is like 3-7 in not my favor? And I do, as I said, I do understand. It was not fun games, and a lot of people find it boring to watch. And compared to Pound 5, when people were like super hyped about this, the people towards the end of second set, a lot of people had already left their seats. And that was a bit sad, of course, but I wanted to win, and I wanted to do what it was necessary to win. And also, I think like even though a lot of people, at least back then, did refuse this fact, that Mango was actually counterpicking people a lot back in the day as well. Even though people always said like, oh, he's just going what he's feeling for, but what he was feeling for was always what was the best actual pick. Like he played Fox against me instead of Falco, and he played Falco against Mewtwo instead of Fox. I think it's very, like, it's not even a coincidence that he goes, Fox against me, which is better against Peach, and he goes Falco against Mewtwo because Mewtwo is having a huge problem against Falco. So of course, like if you want to win, you do, you take the best bet to actually win. And I think Mango did consider his Falco the best possible pick against Mewtwo King, and Fox the best possible pick against me. And also against Hungerbox, he was doing the same. He played Fox against Hungerbox, which is having a much better matchup against Puff than Falco. And then against PPMD, he played more Falco because he was doing better in the matches with Falco than Fox. So it always, comes down to, a counterpick war, and we both utilize the same strategy if you actually think about it. His matches might have been more entertaining against Hungerbox than mine, but in the end, we both won, and that's what I consider like the most important part.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to talk more about Mango later, and like I'd love to get your commentary on each of the other gods and that even the concept of the gods. But first, let's talk about all the big tournaments first, and then we can we'll talk about the other stuff later. So after this, you doubled or you did a repeat, and won Apex 2013 against Silent Wolf, Wobbles, Kirby-Kaze, Hungrybox, and PPMG. Was this in Grand Finals, was this the one that HBox pulled out Ness?
Yeah, but it was actually a huge tournament before that. A Smash reunion in Norway.
Oh, that's right. With PPMG, who came to Europe.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So basically, when I started to travel to America, it was no possibility of having a top American Smasher in Europe. If you want to prove yourself, if you want to be the best, you travel to America. That was, what I was told. And I remember after the last Genesis 1, people said, no, if you win in America, then we might come over. But until then, it's, your duty to come over here and, prove yourself. And after I won, I realized that no one was really interested in traveling to Europe anyway, Home field advantage is always good to have. The differences between NTSC and PAL, which a lot of people actually refuse to accept that they are huge. But I think that's also another reason that is possibly why people do not want to go to Europe as often, because they're not as comfortable with version. So it usually is up to me to actually, adapt to that. But PPMD, props to him. He was the first top player from America that ended up going to Europe, Norway, Smashers Union, Melee Grande, hosted by Tomberry in Norway. And I was very, very excited. Okay, one of the top players, they're gonna travel to my continent, and we're gonna play my version of the game, and the crowd is mostly gonna be behind me, most likely, I thought. So I was very hyped about this. And Europe, we had some pretty solid player. Ice was there, Leffen was there, Over was there, Sigetto. But I think everyone in the venue sort of expected me and PPD to face off in the grand finals. And it doesn't happen too much until winners final, to be honest. We both, we get there pretty comfortably. I lost one game against Leffen, 3-1. Even though I managed to force-stock him in the last game of the set, actually, which was pretty fun. And I think PPMD do not drop a single game up to winners final. So everyone is hyped, okay, both is more or less undefeated in games. And they're both playing pretty solidly. It's America and Europe, but now in Europe, everyone is hyped, and I know a lot of Americans, they're watching the stream. And the thing is, when I traveled to, America for the first time, I took a second, and I had, to sit on that stupid plane the entire way over the Atlantic, and, accept the fact that I could not make it on my first try. And even though I know, America is, much harder to win a tournament over there than Europe, and I was probably PPMD's only real threat, I was no, that's not gonna stop this, I can't allow him to win his first tournament here, I can't do that, So we played in winners final, and I had seen, these huge trophies that Tomberry was buying in for the tournament for teams and singles. And the thing is, when I see these trophies and belts, it always gives me, this motivational factor of actually winning, because I want to have them as a memory, bring them back home and this is mine, Money's always good, but money comes and it goes. But the trophies and the belts, you will always have them. So I saw this, golden trophy. I tried to imagine having it, in, a trophy shelf or something like that, or trophy case. And we started playing off in winners final. And that's probably one of the sets when TP had been the most outplayed since he became, like very, very good. I actually managed to like 4-0 him. And at this point, a lot of people is probably like expecting the road to, the actual win, to be pretty easily. And I remember watching the games as well afterwards, and people are like, this is not really like PBMD doesn't really have a chance. Like maybe Armada should play some secondaries because making it more even. But that's one of the most dangerous things as a player to underestimate your opponent because momentum can switch so fast in melee, so fast. And I remember I was sitting there in a chair, pretty close to when like loser final was playing, and some people came up to me like, "Oh, it's like you're gonna take this easily," and I was like, "No, it's at least one more set. Like we gotta take this. I do not want to risk like underestimating him because I know he has been beating me in the past in pound 5, so he's a very tough opponent to play against, and if he starts doing well, it's hard. It's like a snowball effect. When he starts rolling, it only goes more and more in there, and so that was pretty rough playing against him normally. And in grand finals, like it's a pretty much an opposite set. Like he's adapting pretty well to like my strategies. His DI is better, like his punish game is better. Like everything seems to be like 10-15% different actions in your movement, in your recovery, in your punish game. Like everything, it all comes together, and it's like a huge difference. And I remember he was up 3-1 the first set. Like I had never been like beaten by PP so solidly, I would say. But I managed to come back pretty good, making up to 3-3. And I was like, okay, I want to end this now. And I had been winning 2 games in a row, so the momentum was starting to shift towards my direction until Game 7, when it went the completely opposite way. I don't think in tournament my Peach has ever been 4-stocked. I don't think so. At least not until I became good. But the first stock, I die. The second stock, I can't touch him, I die. The first stock, I die, and he has like 25-30%. I look like a scrub. Like I can't even move around. He's all over me and my character. And he's about to 4-stock me. Actually, he tries to run off with a dare, like sort of like maybe the disrespect, like too much confidence, as we were talking about against me and Mango or Amsa versus Ek. He was outplaying me so much that the confidence was starting to get to him in a bad way. And after I could actually pretty solidly take another stock. And I remember the third stock, like when he had 2 stocks left, I was pretty damn close to take that stock as well, but small error, maybe not taking it, and he could end up winning the first set of grand finals. But I saw it started to get to him. It started to play like slightly worse when the pressure was coming to him. But it was rough. Even though I won 4-0, he won 4-3. So technically I was like 8-3 in games, but we were still back to even. Like it was a new set. Whoever comes up to 4 wins first is gonna win this tournament. And yeah, the second set goes like pretty much back and forth. Like first set was like pretty clear in my favor. The first half of first set was pretty clearly Pepe's favor. So it was like a long winning streak basically, or like big part of matches which was clearly one of our favors. But in the second set, it started off pretty evenly, I would say. And at one point, we're up 2-2 in the set, so 2 more games. And I managed out to win on Dreamland, I think it was, 3-2. And he goes to Pokemon Stadium, and this game is like so close. Like my heart was pumping so fast, and the crowd was like so hyped. And I'd been missing some of the stuff in like the second set, like my punish game and combo game. And I remember the first stock I was taking with a pretty solid edge guard, maybe pretty standard by these days. And the crowd was like so hyped, like, oh my god, just finish it. Like we can't take this anymore. It's too many matches. Like best of 7. It's oh, we can't take it. And the entire match is like so close. I take 1 stock, he takes 1 stock, I take 1 stock, I think he takes 2, And then I take another one, and we're down to the last final stock, the moment of truth, the stock of champions. And I think I was comboing him pretty hard this stock at first. But if you don't kill him, it might come back to haunt you. And he's doing the same. People are getting, hyped, and you try, to block everything out. Like, do not let the pressure go to you. Do not roll to the center of the stage. And I know I'm laying on the ground, and he's standing next to me, and a roll is gonna put me, more closer to the center of the stage than him. And he's doing the F smash, but right before that, I realized that this is most likely what he's gonna go for. He knows, like, the pressure is there, but I had to be calm enough to actually not rolling in this direction in this moment, because I knew, like, he's gonna cover center stage, and I do not roll there, and it's safe. Like, I'm out of this, bad situation. And instead of this, I managed to land my own hit, and he died. He died. And the thing is, like, I really wanted to win for Europe. I wanted, like, the Americans to go home with second place. It was this country to country thing. And once I see this, hit land, I see him fly off stage. And Falco, even though you're like a bird, I guess, you're not gonna fly back on this stage. And I just jump, I jump out of my seat. I'm just like yelling so much, like it's so much emotions. I'm so pumped. And I remember, like, Android and my Kagger, they were like coming next to me, and they were like hugging me, and I had like too much emotion. I was like hugging them fast, and then like out of the hug and like screaming. It was like, oh, it was such a good feeling. And I remember my Kaggers were like lifting me up in the air, and it was people chanting my name. And but then afterwards, like after all of that, like seeing PP sitting there in the chair, and then like walking away and like with his head down, even though it was like such a good moment for me, I started to feel a little bit bad for him, because I got sort of reminded of how it was when I went to America, and most people were, like rooting for my opponent. So I walked up to PP and like thanked him for, some good games, because it was some pretty good games, I would say. So yeah, I knew like mission accomplished, more or less. So I took home the trophies, like one for teams first place and one for singles first place, and America had to take second. And at this point, more or less, since Amsa had been around for like a while, it was like I had to represent Europe by myself, more or less. And it was such a good feeling, seeing that I could take both of these trophies home to me, and that's it.
That's amazing. Did you and PP hang out at all at that event?
PPMD and I, we usually do not hang out that much. Like, I'm a very good friend with Mango and Mute, I would say. But Hungerbox and PP, I would say we're more competitors in the same community. Like, we end up talking, sometimes, but I would not really say I know the guy that well,
Yeah.
So, no, not really, not that much.
Yeah.
And the few times we do interact with each other, it's sort of more like a mental game. So I remember one time, I think it was at Apex 2013 actually. I was standing pretty close to him, and we were talking a little bit, and I was having my Apex shirt, from Apex 2012. And to get in people's heads sometimes you can be like pretty funny and like tricky. So I was having this Apex 2012 shirt, and I was like, "Yo, PP, what do you think about my shirt? It's pretty cool, right?" Because I knew like that tournament I was beating him, and I actually ended up winning the tournament. So that would be in his head, So like I think like me and PP, it's sort of like that when we interact with each other. Like we're messing around with each other like a little bit. We have like fun, and it's the mental aspect. I think PP and I were pretty similar when it comes to like the analytical point and the mental aspect, and how that can affect a person, the player, and decisions they make. So yeah, it's a pretty weird like relationship, but yeah.
Interesting. Is anybody else in the top 5 like that, or is it just kind of you and PP?
No, I would say the relationship I have with PP is not similar to anyone else of the other like top 5 people, and I think like my relationship with all of them is a bit different, or much different usually.
Yeah. What about you and Hungry Box?
Oh, me and Hungerbox, actually, I would say that's, probably the relationship with the least amount in there. Because we usually don't hang out that much. I think Hungerbox is a pretty cool guy, but I guess we're like, slightly different. And for some reason, we just don't end up, hanging out much. So I'm not really sure what to say about that one. I probably have to think about more about it.
And you and Mango seem also kind of like totally different in terms of your approaches to the game. How would you describe your relationship?
Oh, my relationship with Mango, that's probably the most like complicated one or the one that's changing the most over the, course of all of these years. When I came to America, like Mango, he started off like he was, introducing himself, was like friendly, but I think he saw me, as a real threat to his throne. That was his spot. He had, been having it for a long time. America was like, oh, this is our best player. And when I came in, I felt like he was having respect for me for sure. But I think like he felt like a little bit fretted about, maybe someone else, taking my spot. So he did dislike me a little bit. I still do not think he really disliked me. It was more, like a thing he was having, Uh, and when we were, at tournaments, a lot of times we didn't talk, that much. But when he was, passing by, he was always, like doing something like that on my back, and then having, his usual smile. And it was like pretty funny. Like you always know that this guy is around. You never know what is, gonna happen, but he's always around. And like we played in tournaments, and like our relationship, I would say it grew mostly forward after I came back to the game, actually after 2013. uh, because like yeah, like Mango had really started to respect me like even more, like more and more for each time. And Mango, like he's such an amazing player. It's like so good, it's hard to describe actually. And I don't think people that is not completely into Smash really understand how good he's actually at this game, what he's doing, But when I decided to step down from the game, at first, like Mango became pretty salty about that. Like like his rival was sort of gone, or at least one of them. But when I came back to the game, it felt like Mango, he really missed me, and multiple times during the year I was gone, he like texted me, he told me like, "Oh, I'm missing you. You should come back to the game. The community needs you. You bring in a lot of hype. Like, take your months, but please someday return and play. And even if you don't, we should have like the Super Bowl of Smash until the day we die. That we should always meet up at least once a year and play some games and just have fun. And when I decided to actually come back, I think, except for maybe the exceptions of my brothers, I think Mango was by far the most happy person on earth. He was so happy, like his rival was back again. The hype was there, and I think Mango like was missing this so much during the year I was gone. So when I actually came back, he was always like more friendly. He was always like we were hanging out more. After tournaments, we ended up partying together or just hang out, play Smash, whatever. It didn't really matter what we were doing. We were just having fun and like real friends. On the court we were rivals, but when we step down, it's not tournament matches. He's pretty sure Mango do not want to make anything at all to risk that I'm going away again. So I would say our relationship is by far the one that has been evolving the most over the years.
Mm-hmm. What do you think he brings to the scene in terms of his attitude?
Uh, his attitude, like it's different. Also, like the thing is, Mango and me, that relationship, and Mango as a person, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like Mango as a person was changing a lot during all of these years. For early on, the days I was around, people would probably say he was a bit more immature, maybe a little bit too cocky, and all of that. But still, like a lot of people were pretty young, trying to find ourselves as human beings, and no one is perfect. But Mango, like early on, and even to this day, he was bringing like a lot of hype for Smash. His game style is very very appreciated. People have fun watching Mango when he plays, and he represents America more than any other Smasher. Not only because he's the best, but the way he is as a person. He really loves America so much, and sometimes I can't understand like why he loves it so much. But it's very very clear that he actually do it. So a lot of people can probably relate to Mango, and they can count on him. Like when something is going wrong on tournament for America, he's like the last hope, and he's always so nice to people. At least nowadays, I think it was pretty nice even back then. But nowadays he's always very friendly, and regardless of who comes up to him, he's always there. He's a cool guy. So yeah, he's a crowd favorite in America for sure, and for understandable reasons.
Yeah. How do you describe? Because you said it a little earlier that it's very hard to describe how he plays the game. How, if you had to describe it, how would you take a stab at it?
So the way Mango is playing the game, it's more influence and based on instincts than any other player. PP, I would say, plays a bit more, analytical, calculated. He keeps it, like calm, and depending on the emotions of the other player, he switches up his game style. Mute King is more or less he's only playing according to his own strengths, basically. And with Mango, I would say he's more like I don't know, like he's playing a lot on the fact that people or players they get afraid of him, they respect him too much, and I think that's a huge thing. If some people played against Mango without being aware of the fact that it was Mango, or if Neil was built in a way when it would be harder to tell like oh this is this player because similar styles were more common, then I think like some people might have had a slightly easier time with Mango, even though of course like he's Mango, you're never gonna have an easy time with that guy. I remember telling me Mango when he said Mute King's one of his best matchup in the top 5 is Mango, and then I said like that's a pretty bad grade. Like if Mango is your best matchup, you're literally fucked up. Uh, but yeah, so Mango, he's as I said, he's playing a lot. The fact that you respect him and that you get afraid of, his pressure, his speed, his awareness of the game. Like even the smallest spacing details, he's always there on point. His timing is so good. When people are landing in this game, it's a pretty good timing to go in, and he's always there at the right time running in with shine, and instead of you landing your hit you're like a few pixels away. Instead he turns it around into his own advantage. And so yeah, Mango, like you have to respect the way he's playing, but the thing is you can respect it in different ways. And the common mistake for most people, and I think like I'm partly doing this myself from time to time, is the fact that too many people they back off. They are afraid. They do not want to have him close by. But Fox is very different from like the floaty-ish characters. You can't like run away from Fox. He's fast. He has the aggressive tools. So this thing, like I think Mango is one of the absolutely best of understanding, when people are too afraid of him, when they respect him too much, and when you just want to, go away from him or get rid of him. Rolling in against Mango, I was doing it Genesis 1, and even to this day, I see so many people do that same mistake. I remember EVA 2013, Hungerbox was, at the left side, and Mango was slightly closer to the center stage, and Mango is charging an up smash, but even so, Hungerbox, he rolls in, the same mistake I was doing, more or less, and he dies. Set over. Mango knew he was gonna roll. Like he respected him too much. He wanted to get away. So instincts and awareness of when people get too afraid of him is two very very important factors in Mango's game style, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. When you ended up playing him, you didn't play him at 2013. Like he got knocked out, I think, before he even got to you.
Yeah, that's correct. So Apex 2013. My third, like the third time I'm trying, to win in America. Like I've been beating PP, and he was, the last one beating me in the grand finals. So, but the thing is, I still, wanted to do it on, American, home advantage, and. But more or less, I think most people expected it to be me and Mango. The one with Hungerbox was probably, a one-time thing. Most people were probably thinking. Like no disrespect to Hungerbox, but most people, they always think Mango's gonna end up there, and he has, like a very solid Smash career. Like no one can, deny that. So yeah, I think most people expected Mango to, make the run back, uh, and but that was not really what happened. I remember I was, on the different side from Mango. I was on the same side as Hungerbox, and then we had Mango, Mute King, and PPMD on the same side. And since we're 5 people, and it's only spots for 4 in winter semis, it means that 2 of us have to face in the quarterfinals already. And pretty unexpected, it happened to be Mewtwo King and Mango actually. I would probably have expected Hungerbox and Mewtwo King, to be honest. But that's not how things turned out. But the thing is, Mango has been beating Mewtwo King for so many years, with a few exceptions of playing Mario or Captain Falcon, which is not really his, main characters, even though he's amazing with both, of course. But it's not, his Falco, it's not his Fox or, Puff either. And most people, they're like, oh, like, yeah, Mewtwo King is very solid, but Mango, he has, he has his number. Like, he hasn't been winning for, like, 4 years, maybe more, like 5 years, 6 years. So I didn't really, pay too much attention to that set. I usually don't during tournaments. I just want to focus myself. But then at some point I hear like some history is in the making here. And I have, to walk there and watch. And yeah, actually Mewtwo King somehow ended up eating Mango. Mango was going to the ledge too much. Maybe his instincts was, giving him the wrong ideas for this set. But the thing is, every playstyle it has the weaknesses and the strengths, and sometimes you have to realize them in time. But it seemed like Mango did not, from what I was seeing. And Mewtwo King beat him, and Mango's in losers already, like top, guaranteed 9th in losers. Mango, really? That was, a huge surprise for all of us. But we also know that loser bracket for Mango is like it's rough kicking him out of there as well. Like he do not get mentally stressed by being a losers. He have a lot of good rounds coming from losers. Pound 3, Genesis 1. So, you can never count him out. Never, never sleep on the kid. But yeah, for my part, I had to play against Hungerbox. And he actually was having, a surprise for me. Some people had been talking already about Hungerbox bringing out the secondary. So that was, in my mind going up to that set. And when Hungerbox is asking for a double blind pick, basically you have to tell a person beforehand which character you're going to play, and then at the same time you reveal, oh, I'm going to play this character. More or less so no one is getting that advantage of picking character last. So you pick it at the same time, and then you have to stick to your guts, And the thing is, I was thinking a lot about, oh, what should I do? The fact that he was asking for a double blind pick was like implying that he's not going to play Puff. And it would have been pretty, like sick if he was asking for double blind, but still was playing Puff all along. So, but I felt like, no, Hungerbox is not doing that. That would, I don't even know if any of the top smashers would be doing that. Mango would probably be like, no, I want like, I'm going to beat you whatever what. Mewtwo King, now I don't know, it feels like it's too risky for him. And PPMD would probably not even bother. Hungerbox, I feel like, no, he's not going to do it either. So I was like, okay, he's probably not going to play Puff. But of course, I knew, like, in case he plays Puff and I pick Peach, that's going to be very rough. But that's actually not the main argument why I decided to stick with Young Link. I was like, even if I win the first game, this set is going to come down to if my Young Link is going to be able to beat his secondary, most likely. Or it's a very solid chance. It's what it's going to come down to. So I'm going to play Young Link, and regardless of the character he's going to play, I'm going to believe in my Young Link. Like, he's, the deciding factor for winning this set. And I remember sitting right next to Hungerbox, and we count down like 3, 2, 1, Young Link, and he's saying Ness. And he was, running away from, the share, and he was hyped, and everyone was like, what is going on? And he picks Ness, and then entire crowd, goes crazy. And people have, been bored to death, sets with me and Hungerbox. And him picking Ness, people are already hyped, like, how is this going to be? Nearly top 8, Young Link versus Ness. Both these characters is actually pretty bad. Like, it's so weird. And I actually have, been thinking like, what was people like maybe like Ken or KDA or Isaiah or Asin, what were they thinking when, like if they saw this match, like Melee top 8 in 2013 is Youngling versus Ness, had people, turned out to be this much worse at this game, or what is all of this about? So I had to play Ness, and pretty similar to, the fact of Hungrybox never playing against a Young Link, I had never played against a Ness. So that was, a bit tricky. But Young Link, I would say like my entire game style was more or less keep him on distance, and like abuse the fact that Young Link's recovery is not very, very good. So the thing is like I was keeping him on distance. I was trying, to figure out his movement, how he was, dealing with stuff. And I noticed pretty early that he's using a lot of forwarders to keep my projectiles out, like especially the bombs. And he's, having the upper hand at first in the match, but pretty clearly, like people see that my Young Link is not only about playing as a puff. Like it's actually, a solid player playing, with a controller. And the more and more the game went on, it started to become pretty clear that the first game was mine, but then Hungrybox started to wake up, and he pulled off some pretty cool stuff. And Ness, it's pretty hard to actually pull off some cool stuff with that character because he actually straight up is a bad character. But props to him. But in the end, I think I was winning with like one stock, 20-ish%. Like it was still a pretty comfortable win. So at this point, I was actually thinking like, oh, is he gonna go Ness again, or is the puff gonna come out? And I probably thought he would go back to Puff, but he didn't. So he decided to stick with Ness. And this time around, he was picking a smaller stage. He realized I'm running away from him. I do not want to deal with this character, or I do not want to deal with it. That's just how it is. So he takes Yoshi's. And the huge difference between Yoshi's and Battlefield is the fact that the top platform on Yoshi's is not nearly as high as it is on Battlefield, which makes it easier for him to deal with me running away. And for a long part in this game, he has, the upper hand. And then, so pretty crazy luck, I will admit, he's grabbing me on the side platform to the right. He's doing a back throw, and that's one of the most dangerous throw in like all of the Smash games. Like it's very strong, and my DI is slightly off. And it's the last stock for both of us. I have like 120, he has like 80, 90, and he back throws me, and it's supposed to be a game. Hungrybox, he drops his controller, he's like starting to like basically run away, and I fly out like towards the corner, and a Shy Guy is there, and I basically bounce on the Shy Guy, and my angle is like, going more upwards instead of outwards, so somehow I, barely survive instead of dying. And I think like a lot of people like that's like what's the chances? That's actually insane luck. And I guess like we all have luck at some point. And this was apparently my turn, And Seabrick, this guy sitting right next to Hungrybox, he's like like sit down, like the match is not over, sit down. And I actually see that Hungrybox is dropping his controller, by the time I'm surviving. And the only thing that actually is on my mind was like, if I win this game, Hungrybox is gonna look like an idiot here, actually. Sort of like Amsa was talking about, like he would look like an idiot when he played against Ek, when he started to taunt and Ek actually survived. So I felt like, okay, if I win this game, it's gonna be so much in his head, it's gonna be, such a mental advantage for me. And it all comes down to the fact that I actually had realized the fact that he was using forwarders to keep my bombs out. And the deciding moment of the first match, Hungrybox is like falling down, and I'm below him, and he's using his fair. But the thing is, if you throw the bomb, you can actually sneak under the forwarder, and I was hitting his legs with the bomb, so he could not block it out, and he was hit by a bomb, he was stuck in hit stun, and I could kill him with an upper. So instead of 1-1, this Shy Guy and my ability, to realize how he was dealing with my projectiles actually, helped me going up to 2-0 instead of 1-1. And I usually just sit down regardless of how the match goes, like no emotions or anything like that. But in that moment, I was just raising my hand, like that's how I do it. Like do not drop the controller before the match is over. Like when the winning screen is up, do whatever you want. But until the game is over, you should always keep the controller in your hand, and that possibly costed him because I was, off stage. Stick with Ness or not, like, it was very close, but he had, a close advantage for most of the game. But he decides to go back to the roots. He decides to go back to Puff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm okay with that, Like, I've been beating his Puff on, like, multiple occasions now. I've been playing this matchup a lot in the past, at least. I usually never really practiced my Angling that much before American tournaments because it was hard because no one was playing Puff and most people were annoyed after, like, a game at most. But he plays Puff, and I have, like, a huge, strong lead. Like, it looks pretty comfortable in my favor, but I think he started to realize the way he was playing at Apex 2012 was more or less how he should be playing, instead of, like, overly, like, aggressive and not respecting, like, anything I was doing. So he actually clutched it out close. Like, it was a close game, but he clutched it out, and then I was, like, thinking, like, oh, what should I do? Like, he's gonna stick Puff at this point. He's not gonna go back to Ness, like, regardless of what stage I'm picking. So I was more or less counterpicking against the Puff, and then I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna go to Stadium. I feel like it's pretty solid stage for Young Link. It's like low ceiling, transformations. If I'm in the lead, it's gonna be rough for him. So I was like, okay, let's do that. And for most part of the game, I have a pretty, like, big lead, and Hungerbox up to this point has never been able to rest my Young Link. Most of the times when you see Hungerbox playing, he's, sneaking in like 1 or 2 rests per game often. But even, like, the Grand Finals was 1 hour or something at Apex 2012, and we played Genesis 2 and Pound 5, he had never been able to rest me, but he was doing a down throw in the last game, which has an animation for like 2 seconds, and I do not DI away from him. And the thing is, I thought my bomb would explode in time so I would be safe, which was apparently not the case. I really miscalculated how long I'd been holding the bombs in my hands. So he managed to rest me, and it's, pretty even again. But I'm still having the advantage here, so it's not, any need to worry, like, too much. Like, just go back to the plan. It's okay. And he sneak in another kill. It's 2-1 in stock. And at this point, I think it's like about 50 seconds left on the clock. And Hungerbox, comes down on his last stock. And I tried to backer him from the ledge. No, not from the ledge, from the air. Like, I'm falling down from the air with a backer. And somehow, he's going for, like, a YOLO rest. He's, just staying on the ground. And Puff is, like, invincible, like, right in the beginning of that move. So I guess my move was, like, going through him or something. And he rested me and I died. And now we were, like, back to 1 stock, 0% each. It was, like, completely even. It was, like, 30 seconds left. Kind of like a Genesis 2. It goes down to who is having, the least amount of percentage. And it's pretty scary because if he's in the lead, he has a much easier time, it's like flying off stage, while I can't really hide myself, To be fair though, it's probably easier for me to actually land the hits. So I punish him, like, when he's, in the rest, and at some point when I'm in the lead, he goes for another rest, a third rest. He's already been landing 2 rests in the same match, 2 more than he's ever been landing before. And he goes for it, but Young Link is pretty hard to rest, and I have, like, a very, very good DI, so he misses it. And I'm like, oh, I have a small lead here, but the timer, it's, going down every second is so long. I'm like, okay, I want to wait as long as possible, like, please sleep for even longer somehow. And I take the sword, I kick him away, and people are in the crowd, they're counting down, like, 5, 4, 3, 2. And I had a strategy, like, if, it's down to, like, 1 second, and I have, like, a kind of huge percent lead, I realized if a light shield is over, he can only grab me from here, he can't rest me. That's the only thing he can do, grab. And I have, a huge lead enough that the grab would not be, enough. So once I was holding in, the light shield, I know that's game over. He goes for the rest, that's, like, all he can do. But the rest did not go through, and I beat him 3-1. The Young Link plan had been working for, like, 2 years at this point. What people thought would probably be, like, a one-timer at Pound 5, I actually had been working for 2 years now. So that was a huge relief, Like I still did not need another answer for Puff. Like Young Link was solidly working still after all these years, and I had to play PPMD in winners final here. He pretty comfortably was beating Mewtwo King, and PPMD has always had been having like an easier time with Mewtwo King, I would say, overall over these past years. So it was me against PPMD again, like exactly as winners final. There's the two of us. Then you have a lot of other good players in losers. Mewtwo King. You have Hungerbox. You have Mango. So it's about to be the cool matches is gonna start from here on. And I play against PPMD in what possibly is my best tournament set of all time. Actually, I had a very very solid read on PP in this set. I felt like when I touched him, he died. When he rolled like on the ground, he got punished, and like overall, it was just like my decision making was uh, outclassing him in this set, and you could see like he got more and more frustrated that like why is nothing really working here. It was like in Smash, it's a lot of time the small margins that make the huge difference, and once you're starting to lose with this small margin every time, like emotions can come into play, and I started to notice that, and that can make me capitalize even more. And I think I two stuck him the first game, three stuck him the second game. I was like, oh, did some very very solid stuff there. And in the third game, I was up three stuck to one, and I was like, okay, I have two games, like two stuck, 2 games lead, and also I'm having a huge stock lead. I should just go for the trades. I should go for like the safe stuff, like rack up the percentage. If you just win the game here, that's what is important. I do not care if we win by 3 stock. I do not care if I win by 2 stock or if I win last hit. What's the best in the long run and like consistently here is what I'm gonna go for. And he brings me down to 1 stock, but at this point he already have like 140% by like 0. So I know like this is gonna be very very rough for you to come back from. If you just trade 1 hit, you're dead. And I'm pretty sure we traded at some point in there in the last stock, and he goes off stage. And I'm literally throwing my turnip to cover his illusion option. So either he can go there and die, or he can up B and have enough time to kill him anyway. So it's literally, pick your poison. Or I think what you call it the fork in chess. You can pick 2 options, but you're gonna lose either way. So I was like, okay, pick your poison. And I beat him 3-0, very, very, clean. And I think I played much better than I did in Winners Final and Smashers Reunion when I beat him 4-0, because here I felt like almost everything was, really working out. Like in Smashers Reunion, I felt like he played pretty bad in Winners Final, and he probably did not play like his absolutely best in Winners Final, but I really felt like even if it did, that would probably be like too much. It was probably one of like the best sets I've ever played, and at this tournament I felt like no one in this room are gonna beat me. Like this is my last tournament. And actually at this point, like a few months before the tournament, I decided that this is gonna be my last tournament, which no one except for me knew about the time. But it really made me want to go out on top, If you make this happen, you're gonna remain undefeated for 2 years straight. You leave on top, and they can't say they never had a chance to dethrone you, because this is the 3rd time, and only PPMD did bother going to Europe. Like they all had their chance for 2 years, or 1.5 at least, but it seemed like no one was gonna be able to actually do it. And at this point, we have to go through losers now. And Mango, he beats Hungerbox in a pretty close set, which gives us a rematch at Mango Mewtwo King. And Mewtwo King beating Mango once, that's very solid. I'm not taking anything away from him. That was cool. Like after so many years, a player that had been beating him so consistently, it had probably becoming a mental block, somewhere along the way. But somehow Mewtwo King was able to do it. And you can do it once, but the question is, can you do it twice? And pretty early on in the set, I would say, like, it looked like this is not a normal Mango Mewtwo King set either. If we do not include this day at all, at any given day, Mango's gonna win pretty convincingly. But Mewtwo King, he was hanging in there. He was punishing Mango. Mango did look like he looked normal. He looked like a human. This is not like a god meme like a lot of people refer the top players to. Like we're all, like we are all humans and we can all be beaten at any given day. It's possible. And I don't know what made Mute King play so amazing in this set, but Mango's Falco, he was flying off stage. He died at early percent. Like, Mute King played so amazing, and no one saw it coming. I did not see it coming. Mango did not see it coming. Almost no one saw it coming, and I'm not even sure if Mute King saw it coming. That face expression after he was beating Mango, it looked like the most surprised guy ever. But he made it, and Mango was kicked out for fourth. And at this point, I realized this is my last tournament. Like, Mango and I were not, gonna finish this off. But that's, not my problem in this case, I guess. But I'd never played against Mute King in the Grand Finals. But PPMD had been beating me one Grand Finals in America. And even though I beat him in Europe, I wanted to play against PPMD. I wanted to show, like, I'm gonna win on American, American home field, like, at least once. So you better make it to Grand Finals. And I also think more people was, expecting PP to do well against me, even though he lost pretty, with a pretty big margin in winners final. Because that's the thing with PP. He lost against me many times, like, consistently in winners final. But then he's always, like, making it back. He's always stronger in grand finals. Some people might make a reason for I'm, a bit stronger in winners final. I'm not sure about that, but, like, the result was pretty clearly I was doing better in winners final, and it was always, like, more close in grand finals. So PPMD and Mute King is playing, and even though PPMD, he was, like, beating Mute King pretty easily, like, he had his number, as I said. But in this set, Mute King, it looked like he had been beating one demon, Mango. He had been beating, like, so many people this tournament. And now he was, starting to do well against PPMD. Was it actually possible? Could he make this? Could he beat two of his demons in the same day? And I remember seeing him play on FD, second game, when he's down 1-0. And the Space Animal player against Mute King's Marv on FD. One of the most tough challenges ever. I would not say Spaces does bad against Marv on this stage. Experience and knowledge about this matchup on this stage, it's devastating for his opponent. That's just how it is. And PPMD's Falco, he looked pretty lost in that game. He did not have much of a chance, I'm not gonna lie. But I do not blame him. Very few, like, Spacey players over the years have actually been able to take him down on that stage. So Mute King wins 1-1 now. And then in the third game, PPMD is going Pokemon Stadium. He's up for most part of the game, but Mute King is having a very, very solid, like, clutch at the end. And he takes it 2-1. And the rules at this tournament said you can't counterpick the stage you last won on, which was Pokemon Stadium, which allows Mute King to have FD for game 5. And that was probably, like, pretty hard for PP, like, he knows that even if you win game 4, you have FD for game 5. But PPMD, he won a game 4, and game 5, it started off close, like, it was anyone's game, like, anyone could win. I had no idea how it was gonna go, And I remember playing, some friendlies. I think it was against Leffen. I was warming up for Falco. I thought that PPMD is going to clutch it out, even though nothing maybe was speaking for it in terms of, the matchup or the stage. Like, that's Mute King's best for sure. But PPMD usually had the power of always, beating Mute King in a game 5. And Mute King has, like, some mental problems, I would say. Like, if it came down to the last match, possibly of the set, like game 3 in a best of 5, game 3 in a best of 3, it was very, very rarely that he actually managed to win. Even against Mango this tournament, he beat him twice. It never went to game 5. It was 3-1 twice, if I remember correctly. So if Mute King is gonna make the upset, it more or less has to be a more comfortable win than in the last deciding moment. And once again, game 5, Mute King can't make it. It's too much for him, probably. Like, he remembered the fact he lost, at Zenith, for example. Game 5, FD, that time as well. And PPMD, he's winning the loser final. He's, ready for grand finals. And I'm very pumped at this point, PPMD, he's coming, and it did, like, PPMD, like, it was so, like, weird, but we had to play a grand finals again, and I knew, like, the Marv might be coming out. We had played some friendlies at Apex 2012, Peach against Marv, but I did not think he would start off with Marv. I was like, he's probably gonna go Falco for game one at least. But much to my surprise, he actually ended up going Marv for the first game. People knew he had a solid Marv, but he had not been showing it off in the tournament at all in a single game, like not in bracket at least from what I was aware of. And he goes Marv, and this Marv is so different from Mutiking's. Mutiking's Marv is like more aggressive. PB's Marv is more defensive. Mutiking goes in, and PB he dash dance. He's like using the fact that Marv goes so far from one dash so well. So every time I try to approach, he dash away and punish me for it. And every time I try to go back, he's using the fact that Marv is faster and punish me when I'm trying, to pull a turnip. He's using the character's strengths, speed, and range, which is clearly better than Peach's in both these areas to his advantage. And it seems really, really hard to get in. He's like protecting himself so well. And I think PPMD is like better against Floaties and Mute King and Spaces based on how they are playing. The way PPMD is playing allows him to protect himself from Floaties pretty good, but it's hard to play against a Spacey that can deal with that dash dancing much better, because then sometimes you need to go in and you need to land your combos. But I did not have a Spacey at this point that would probably be able to keep up with this Marv, so I had to stick with Peach. And even though PPMD, he was having a pretty comfortable lead for most part of game one. People were getting hyped, like, oh, like the Falco's having such a hard time, but the Marv's doing like clearly better. Maybe this is the right pick. And at some point in this match, like some crucial errors from PP was made, and I could clutch out game one, which was a relief, I was down for so long in this match, and somehow I still ended up winning. And then I know, like, PPMD, Marv, Dash Dance, that sounds like FD. And it sure was FD. It was nothing, I could really do.
Okay. Go ahead.
So we were playing Marv against Peach and FD, and I know like the way PP was playing, it's gonna, be even more of an advantage for him. He keeps to the ground every time I'm above him. He used, upper. He's trying to keep me above him when I'm up there. And I have a rough time keeping up with him on this stage. I feel like I can't approach him. I can't touch him. And every time he's touching me, he's like doing like much more out of it as well. And he beats me very, very solidly in game two. And every time I'm in high percent, he do like side beat, up tilt. He's like even, pretty consistent with killing me at like decent percents on, FD and Battlefield. And I knew like, okay, if he's killing me pretty decently, I need to survive. I need, to stay alive, even if it hits me hard. If I can make sure he can't kill me, that's gonna make a huge difference. So I decided to go to Dreamland for game 3. And in this match, PP has very rough times with killing me. Dreamland has such a high ceiling, and even though he's trying with his classic side beat to up tilt, I survived. I survived for so long forward there, so survived up more than 200% multiple times. And I remember at some point he's trying to grab me at like 230 or something like that, and I don't want to die from an up throw, so I actually changed the way I'm holding the controller from like normally holding it like this. I take up my hand sort of like Javi, and I just mash all my fingers over the bottom trying to get out of the grab as fast as possible. And somehow I made it out in time, and the next time he grabs me, of course, it froze me up right away and I die. But the crowd was pretty high though with me getting out of the grab, so that was pretty fun as well. But I ended up beating him that game. Peach's best stage in the matchup, I would say. And yeah, the rest of the set, PP, I would say, had like a small edge most of the time, but it's still comfortable enough when he can actually pull out the win. In game 4, it was more solid. In game 5, I think I would bring him down to the last stock, but I could not really make it. I was beating him in both Pokemon, both Battlefield. it started to become pretty clear that this Marth pick was the wisest choice he could make. I'm pretty sure that his Falco would not be able, to do this well. So I knew, like when he won, set one, that I had to deal with this Marth for another set. But I also knew, like, it was a huge difference in me as a person at this tournament and in the past. Genesis won, pound five. I could not keep my composure enough. I was starting, to think about the victory too much. I lost two sets in a row. The thing with Hungrybox at Apex 2012, I managed to keep myself calm enough. Even though I lost the first set, I could bring it back. I won 3-0. Like, you can't change the past, but if you want, the bright future, you better play good. So I knew, like, okay, I had been doing this one time before. It was 1 year ago. I was sitting here, the same situation. I was winning winners final, 3-0 both times. And then I could not end up, finishing off. I was 2-1 in the lead against PPMD, 2-0 against Hungrybox. I was dropping both sets. But I know I could win set 2. I proved that for myself, that I can do this, and I will do this. And set 2, I aim for playing a bit more aggressively, because I noticed that PP plays a bit too defensively, maybe. And he's having a harder time keeping up with this. Maybe not the first stock in grand finals, but the more and more we play this first game, he has a harder time keeping up. And I think I pre-stocked him this game. And compared to like grand finals, I was beating him with pretty small margins when I was winning. But now he has like a 3 stock. That was like a bigger margin than he won any of the 3 games in the first set. So that was a pretty good thing for me. And now we go back to FD, of course, this rough stage for me playing against Marth. Much more rough than playing against Mutakins Marth on FD, I would say. Just based on the way he's playing. I would say he understands the defensive part of Marth the best in the world. And I need to play like the perfect game, more or less. But the thing is, my offensive is more on point. My combo game is slightly more on point, and I get more and more experience in these games. Like, it's a learning process. I've never played against this Marth in a tournament before. Now I had like 6 games before this match, game 2 in grand final, set 2, to go back on. Like, I learned a lot in this process, and I win this game. And if you compare it to winning the grand finals on FD, it was a huge difference from like very consistently getting outplayed. I managed to outplay him instead, and it goes to FD again to no surprise in game 3, and I had a very good and pretty solid start here, but I could not finish off his first stock in like 10 seconds. It was close though, it was close. But the thing is, I had a huge lead for a long while, and then when I had like 2 stocks, high percents, and he had 1 stock, very low percents, I DI incorrectly on a tipper, I recall. And I died a bit too early. And the thing is, when it comes down there, I make a huge miscalculation in my spacing, and PPMD kills me at 30-40%, and that's not what's supposed to happen with Peach. And there's also a difference of the versions coming in again. In PAL, from the downer, you can jump literally right after, but in NTSC it's a spike. Like, you're more often than not dead. And I died 2 stocks in 15 seconds or something, and people were hyped. Was looking like a clean 3-0, was 2-1. But the thing is, over the course of these 3 games, I still felt pretty good. Like, for the most part, I was doing well, and I had not at this point been thinking about, winning the tournament at all. I knew, like, focus on the next game, like, we can do this, we will do this. And I go to Dreamland, which PPMD did not manage to beat me on in the first set. He did not manage to beat me there with Falco in winners final. And so, of course, my plan is going back to, the same stage. And no, I have like 2 chances here. Beating me on Dreamland once, that's hard. Beating me there twice, that you're not allowed to do that. That's my stage. And the game 4, I was having some very solid play in there. My spacing, my punish game, My movement, it was solid, and I was having like a pretty comfortable lead for most of the game. But then at some point, like everyone, like we're all humans, and when I want to finish him off on this last stock, everything seems like it's much, much harder. You want this last hit to finish off the game. The opponent, he knows that he can't get touched, they are aware of this. Many people, they play differently when they're on the last stock. And I want to finish it off. And PP is like catching my approaches. He's comboing me up. What a few like maybe 20 seconds ago was a pretty good lead. We were like both high percent last game, and I know like the pressure is there. But this is what I'm living for, in a sense, or have been doing for a long time at least. I know that these moments of playing, when it counts the most, like one hit can decide the entire thing. That's such a good feeling. And he tries to kill me off with a forward throw F smash. But the thing is, I know with a certain DI you can air dodge before the F smash when he, wave dash towards me. I think PBND was not really aware of this, so I managed to escape. I down smash him, I sending him across the stage. He makes it back though. But then, like slightly later, we're both, in sort of the center of the stage, and he probably thinks I'm gonna jump up with, a nair or something. He's jumping with his fair. The thing is, I'm doing this. The only problem is I did it slightly too late for him, and I see that my nair is like hitting his character, and he flies up. And Dreamland, it's a very high ceiling, and it flies up, and I'm like, was that the winning hit? And I'm, on the edge of my seat, and I see that his character is not gonna make it back. He's flying, and I'm just putting down my controller. I'm like jumping out of my seat, like a third tournament in America, and it was amazing. Mango, Hungerbox, PP, they all had been beating me in grand finals, and now the story was, like ending. I beat them in, the opposite, like the same order, like Mango first, Hungerbox then, and then PP. So I don't know, like it was such, a great relief, and I felt like it was probably among my better tournaments. I was in a good shape. My game overall, it was so solid, and I'm not really sure if I expected that because I had started to actually, getting a bit more tired about the game, but I really wanted to win my last tournament. And just, seeing Alex Strife coming up with the Apex trophy, I already had one at home, and I knew like this is one is gonna stand right next to that one, and it felt great. Like I wanted to at least win one tournament in America at some point, and this now like 1.5 year of winning every tournament in the world. It come to a pretty good end, I thought.
And it is kind of perfect that it like mirrored the way that you had lost those grand finals that come in second, and now you face them all again and won first in each of them.
Yeah, that's very cool. Like Giannis won, like it was the opposite order: PPMD, Hungerbox, Mango. Like on my way there to grand finals, and now I beat them in the same order in an actual grand finals in America. So I actually did not really thought about it too much until after the tournament when I realized, oh, this was actually a thing. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
As you said, you had been thinking about retirement before. You didn't tell anybody that you were thinking about retirement?
No, the thing is like, my retirement, a lot of people were requesting about that. But the thing is, I started to feel like it was not as fun anymore. And I decided to not tell anyone because I realized if I tell anyone, they are just gonna bother me with it. And if I do, like tell anyone here in Sweden or Americans, people will try to convince me, and it's only gonna distract me. Like I'd already decided I'm gonna go to Apex, but this is the last one, most likely, because this mind, like this thought, it was crossing my mind, like probably like 4 months before Apex. So I felt like many reasons for this was I lived in an area with no one to play with. I lived, with my brother. He did not really want to play as much as I wanted, and even though he wanted to, it was always the two of us playing. I had to travel like back and forth for like more than 3 hours to play with anyone. But the thing is, the community in Gothenburg were more or less dead. I played with like Mike Hager more or less often at all either. So the thing I had to do to keep up and actually winning all these tournaments for all these years was playing against computers more or less every day to one day every half year compete with the best players in the world. And I would lie if I said I did not enjoy these moments, winning these tournaments, the excitement that was there. But the thing is, did I really thought it was worth it playing every day, more or less, against CPUs just to keep up with that? That was when, it came to a point when I thought it was more or less I forced myself to play rather than I wanted to play. I was like, if I did not play for a day, I was like, oh, I should play, more the next day. And then I did play against, computers, and I was like, this is not fun anymore. Of course, it's still some stuff left with the character even to this day, but it was more like, what I find very exciting playing against computers, finding all of these new things with the character, and it became like less and less stuff left, and it became more of like doing the same routines over and over and over again, and do them for so many days, just to one, like 2 days per year, playing, the final day of the bracket. And I thought it was not worth it anymore. And I don't really think it was too much about not having competition, because I think I had competition. Like, even though I won consistently, it was always close in the tournaments. So it was more like the game was not the same for me anymore. It was not fun to practice because I had no one to practice with, more or less. And I was always a bit jealous of the fact that in America, like in certain regions, you had so many top players. You could always have people challenge you. And even if they did not, it was so many people to just play with. And I did not have that. And I do not think people realize how boring it could be to actually, play against the computers just to keep up. And now afterwards, I've even heard some people, ask, like, how could you do that for so long? And, like, even Mango, like, he was like, oh, it's not too bad playing against CPUs. I was like, do that for a few years and tell me how fun it is. He came back a few hours later and said, like, I have no idea how you did this for so many years. And that's probably the moment when, start to, like, realize for some, like, for him at least, that it was kind of understandable. Like, doing that thing, you can only do it for so long.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting too. I mean, I feel like Mango's play style has changed over the years, or at least recently, since UO 2013 at least. And maybe we can talk about this at the next session, but a little more in depth. But it seems like his style, like originally, was much more, rush down heavy and stuff, and then now he's kind of incorporated the laser more, and been like really, and that is kind of like incorporating more defense into his game. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did notice that for sure. That was actually in 2014. I noticed that. That was when I came back to the game. I went to Michigan for a tournament in June 2014, and I was beating Mango that tournament, and he had the same style. He was playing very, rush down, aggressive. He wanted, to like not let you breathe at all, not think at all, playing his game more or less. And I beat him 3-2, and then Huge King was beating him like 3-1 or something. He forced him the last game, and Mango probably realized that it's good playing aggressive, but it can be hard to do it for an entire tournament sometimes. So he probably, started want to like mix it up a bit more. The thing is, like, the aggressive part becomes even harder to deal with if you mix it up with some defense, because then you don't know like when he's gonna go in, when he's gonna camp. So I think after that tournament, he said like, okay, I'm gonna use this, gun. I'm gonna use it to my advantage. And I told him like, you always say that, but I do not really expect that to be the thing. I think Mango is gonna take over, and you're gonna go back to the roots.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Did you when you stepped away from the game? What was the reaction from people?
The reaction from people was they were mixed, but I sort of expected that. I remember I was telling my brother like I was done, and he was like he probably understood what it meant, but it was more like he probably not wanted to understand because this was not what he wanted, or most people, and he was very sad about that. And that was a pretty emotional part for me actually, because I remember when I told him like I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I'm still gonna be around in the community, and support you. And if you ever want to play, I'm never gonna deny you the fact, because if it's one person I can thank for reaching the top, it's Android. He was always there for me. And even back in the day, sometimes when he did not want to play, I was like, I want to play so much, like help me. And he helped me so much over the years. I was like, even though I'm tired of the game, just ask me to play, and you are the one person I'm never gonna refuse playing against, regardless. But he was sad, and he told me like, I always wanted to go to America with you, and I guess that's never gonna happen. And it basically brought tears to my eyes that, like, it was not, like on purpose doing this to like hurt him or something like that, but I felt like I could not keep doing this anymore, but I know it made him sad, so it made me sad automatically, And it was, like, I felt like it was a huge downfall for him, and I was the one that could, make a difference here, but I decided to not do that at first, at least.
Yeah, yeah, that must have been really hard. The reaction of the community at large obviously was, one of disappointment and stuff. How did Mango take it?
The rest of the community did not take it so well overall, I would say. I made a huge announcement. And the reason I did this was because if I would not end up going to tournaments, people would start to ask, like, why do I not go to tournaments anymore? And so I felt like it's probably for the best to tell people as soon as possible before people are going to ask me. It's better I tell them first. And I made, an announcement, and a lot of people at first was like, oh, that's, a troll. I even remember I made a Facebook update, and people were like, oh, that's, just a face rape. Like, that's, not true. And I think King was texting me, and he was like, oh, like, oh, good joke or something like that. And I was like, no, dude, this is true. Like, I'm done. I do not feel for doing this anymore. And like a lot of people were, pretty sad. A lot of this, like the true revival of Melee was this American versus European hype. And I guess I sort of killed it by going away from the game. But I also felt like it's not my responsibility to entirely hold up this, But a lot of people, they were like sad, and they said like they were gonna miss me. And Mango, he was pretty angry, I would say. He felt like he did not get the chance to take me down. And the thing is, I can understand in a sense because I never told anyone beforehand. But I did it because I did not want my last tournament to be about people, trying to convince me the entire tournament. Because if I said before the tournament, this is my last tournament, I knew like people would, follow me and, try to convince me like, no, do not walk away from the game. Like, we want to hear. And even though, like, in a sense, like, I know people are, meaning well, I know that would only distract me from, my goal to actually win the last tournament. So I thought that was, the most reasonable thing to do for me. Because I'm not trying, I don't think I'm a selfish person, but on this, occasion, I thought I had to act like selfish in a sense, because I had been working so many years to have like a good Smash career, and I felt like I was worthy to have like a good ending, or at least the possibility of having the ending I wanted. So, but Mango, he felt like this is, not right, I deserve, a last chance, and... But the thing is, I told him, like, after Pound 4, you never really gave me that chance. You were gone for 1.5 years, and I had to wait for your return. And I did not really bother you too much about it. Like, I had to respect your decision. But I think Mango was not angry. Like, he was not being angry, trying to be mean. He was probably angry because he was disappointed, and he knew that he was going to miss what we had for so many years. But a lot of people also respected the fact that I wanted, to do something else, or at least not, compete anymore for like some pretty obvious reasons.
Yeah. You say that, the fact that Android, really, that was his dream, like to kind of go to the States with you. Does that reflect, and that like affected you pretty hard when you told him that, and like the way he reacted and everything? Was that, does that reflect like on how you feel about your brothers and stuff, Android and any else?
Yeah, it really does. Like, I have a lot of siblings, 10 in fact, all from the same mom and dad. And I would say we are very, close to each other. and like we always support each other. We had each other's back, and of course, like Android, he's like after me in the sibling scale. Like he's coming right after next after me, So he's always also been like the one of my siblings I've been hanging out the most with because we're very close in age, and if I can make like people I care about, like my siblings, happy, I could sacrifice my own happiness to make them happy a lot of times. But at this specific time, I felt like I could not do it at this point. So it was like a huge downfall for me as well. I always want to make them happy, but on this special occasion, I felt like I can't do it, and seeing them sad or maybe not doing as well as they want to, I don't want to say it affects me as much as it affects them, but it makes me feel worse. I want them to be happy. I want them to achieve what they want in life, and yeah, so it was a huge. It was hard for me.
Mm. Yeah. That's tough. Did you? What did you kind of fill your days with after in the brief lull? I guess it was the 6 months.
It was very weird. I would say it felt like I had a lot of free time. I could do like a lot of other stuff. Hang out with other friends, or just hang out with Smashers to do something that was not Smash. And the thing is, like, I just wanted. Probably it was also a part of like maybe knowing myself a little bit better. Outside of Smash. Um, but yeah, I would say it was mostly, having like a lot of free time. That was, what I did realize when I actually decided to quit. And it was also pretty nice to not like consistently have this, like forcing yourself to actually play. If I wanted to play like Smash, like once every like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if I wanted to play like 2 days in a row, it was more like, oh, you pick up the controller and play just because you want to, not because you have this, obsession of becoming perfect, because I'm sort of like a perfectionist, and from the moment I touched the game I wanted to be perfect. And even though I know that it's impossible to be perfect, if you trick yourself that you can be, then you're going to be as close as possible at some point if you go on for long enough.
Yeah.